build networks which are more human and relevant to how people operate in their everyday life.
Your network can actually be personal, opposed to actually being, just one in a queue.
Your data, your assets are the queue, but not locked up, or they're not being held at the contract level or someone else's code. So you're not at the mercy of other code, right? So you really own your assets.
Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to our very first community call. This is a milestone moment, the start of an open space where builders, dreamers, and curious minds can come together to shape what we believe should be a fairer, more human internet. At MOI, we're putting people, not platforms, at the center of a digital world. Our mission is to build an infrastructure that empowers participants, protects fairness, and enables real collaboration in a way that feels natural, safe, and human. I'm Ritha, your host for today, and I'll guide you through our agenda as we share project updates, answer your questions, and open the floor to find new ways for you guys to get involved, because this journey starts and grows with all of us. Let me quickly introduce the core team members we have today. AK is our visionary, our founder and chief architect of MOI and the mind behind Contextual Compute. Rahul is our head of protocol, leading the development for our core architecture and intelligent consensus. JP is our head of marketing, driving ecosystem, community programs, and our growth. Before we begin, here are a few reminders. This call is being recorded and a full recap will be posted on our YouTube channel shortly. Also, if you would like to get involved, please follow our socials and remember that your microphones will be muted today. Now, I'd like to invite AK to walk us through the bigger picture about MOI, the world's first thinking network.
Thank you, Rita. Welcome all. It's been a long journey, and I think several people will attest to that. So what I wanted to share on this call was why we started what we started, and our fundamental purpose of what we are doing here, and that is to raise humanity's happiness quotient. So build networks which are more human and relevant to how people operate in their everyday lives. Because as we go through this tremendous transformation of technology taking over our lives, we always wanted to remember humanity is bigger than technology. And this was a genesis thought that we had in around 2017 or 18, when we thought technology is going to run our lives, and how do we make sure technology enables the human vision and happiness as opposed to controlling what we are doing. That's at a very high level what our vision is.
1 second. AK, 1 second. Can everybody hear him, or is it just me where he's lagging a little bit?
Unfortunately, he seems to be lagging too.
Yeah.
Okay, let's give him a second then to rejoin. Sure he'll be back with us in no time. Thankfully, we have not lost too much time, so yeah.
Shall I walk through the ecosystem pieces now, and then AK can rejoin when he's got a little bit more signal, and we can just keep things rolling a little bit.
Sure, let's hop back to where he was at, and we can start with our marketing, I guess. We can start with what our updates are from the marketing side. JP, please take it away.
Yeah, no problem at all. So one of the things that I've loved the most about MOI, and one of the things that I think is the most impressive thing, and I know AK will come back to it in a moment, but it's the change in the way the technology works. Up until now, when anything's been processed online, especially on blockchain technology, it's always required effectively boiling the ocean to make a cup of tea. So, for example, if Ruth is in New Jersey and I'm in London, and we both order a taxi, neither of us are going to want each other's taxi, neither of us are going to want to pay in each other's currency, neither of us are going to be wanting to go to the same destination. Yet, one of us is going to have to queue behind the other one and wait for our transaction to be processed. And that's nuts. And it just means that from a scaling point of view, from an ecosystem point of view in general, and from a marketing point of view, these technologies can't scale, which is one of the things that MOI can do and MOI does well, is the fact that because of the way the technology is created, and I know Rahul's going to go through this in a lot more depth later, it means that my taxi in being ordered in London is not dependent on Ruther's taxi being ordered in New Jersey. And what that means in very simple terms is that we can both get our cars, we can both get around to what to do, and the network catches up later. And that for me is the bit that from our developer ecosystem is the bit that makes it really interesting. Mixed with our low code, no code solutions, where you can literally just call it like a framework. So instead of having to go and learn Solidity like you did have to for say Ethereum, or go and learn Rust so you can work on Solana, no, it literally you just call it you call the framework as you would for as you would for say Zend or any other sort of Infura or any other platform. You literally just call it in when you need it and drop it out when you don't. And that's been one of the things that makes the whole system different and makes everybody a lot happier and makes the whole thing work. It makes it all feel a lot more sensible in this world that we live in. I mean, this constantly expecting developers to adapt and try and find new technologies to actually become involved is always flawed, because it means you have to go and find new communities. But the joys of MOI is you don't actually have to find new developer communities. You have to tap into existing communities that believe in the wider vision. And like I say, I mean, when AK goes back through that in a moment, you'll see what I mean, and he'll take you through that whole process. And he'll talk you through the wider vision of the project. But from my side of things, the bit that makes it really exciting is the fact that we are now in a situation where your network can actually be personal, opposed to actually being, just one in a queue. And I think for me, that's been the biggest change for us. And that's the bit that I think is the most exciting thing about MOI. And it's the bit that we're trying to get across to all of the developers that are coming into our ecosystem. We want you to come and be part of our ecosystem because of what we can do and what we're believing in. And the fact that we're actually able to actually give you the tools so you don't have to learn a new programming language. You can just bring it into your existing apps. You can call the blockchain as and when you need it. You can drop the blockchain out when you don't need it. You don't have to deal with cumbersome technology. It's just literally there at the touch of a button. When you need it, you can have it, and when you don't, just drop it out. There's no reason to have technology you don't need. We've gone to work on the principle that we want to make this as simple and as easy as for people to use as it can possibly be. And we just had Addy join us, and I'm sure he'll be talking on the next call or one of the later calls as our new developer relations person. And he's going around and talking at hackathons and reaching out to the community, especially at Princeton, which was where he studied, in order to sort of get some more students involved to actually sort of get a ground up swell of movement. And that's what I think is the most important thing, is that we bring in these new developers. We bring in a younger audience that realistically can then use vibe coding technology and combine it with our technology, making their life easier, making it work, and having a blockchain that works for them opposed to them having to work to a blockchain. I mean, it's a ridiculous system any other way. Once you start playing with MOI, you do actually question whether or not that there should have been any other solution in the beginning. A participant-centric network makes total sense. Ownership of your data makes total sense. And this is where MOI fills the gap and actually joins the technology together with the people and gets everybody really excited. And I know inside the team, it's one of the things that we're most passionate about is the fact that we actually have the technology and we're now just sort of pushing it out into the wider audience. We actually have a working solution. It's phenomenal to see, and I really hope that you guys actually take a chance to either meet up with myself when you're in London or Addy when you're in the US, and just try and grab 5 minutes with us at one of the events and actually see what we're doing, and actually spend some time play with our technology and see what we're doing and see how we're actually going about changing the way that blockchain technology works. And for me, like I say, this is the most exciting thing about it. I mean, our app development is going well. We've got people, working hard to produce all sorts of weird and wonderful things on our network, and that's great. That's what I love to see. People just trying to do fun, weird, and wonderful things. I mean, we have our social media platform. So MOI_tech is our Twitter account. Please, if you haven't already, follow us. We've got lots of weird and wonderful stuff going out in there. I know that our marketing guy, Lewis, has been really working hard, creating memes to keep you all engaged and have some fun with. And more importantly, we've also got competitions and such like coming through shortly as well. I mean, we've got a really cool prize for anybody that's a fan of Ape Fest. We've got ticket to Ape Fest for anybody that wants for playing our game. And we're also going to have some token related prizes which is going to be very exciting and coming shortly. And if you get a chance, please don't forget to download our game and play our game. I think there's a QR code literally in the bottom of the screen now as we speak. Please scan the QR code, sign up for the game, play and post a score. And like I said, come September 1st, things are going to get very interesting from that side of things.
Absolutely. I know I've been playing it a lot. I've been trying to win my tokens every day. So I will say you get a little competitive with yourself. So be warned, but definitely join our community. Definitely do our games. We have some fun updates and fun prizes that are coming up soon. So, stick around for that. Join our community. And now that we know a little bit more about what is going on and what's happened, we can go back to AK so he can continue to sort of tell us as to why we started this, because I think it's important to understand the backbone of who we are and what was really the vision behind this.
Right. Thank you, Jonathan. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
All right. Maybe I wanted to start with vision and technology. Maybe it's universe's way of saying you should start from community and marketing. So I think that's interesting. So I think Jonathan has kind of given you a brief of what the technology is about. But our fundamental purpose and the vision when we started this was to build a digitally interacting society where humans are in charge. So never forget that fact and be an enabler of this emerging tech. So why now? I think this is where we dropped off. Technology has been evolving for the last 50 years, I think all the way from mainframes to client server to web today. And it's always been getting closer and closer to how human beings operate, right? AI is the next big thing that's happening today. So the line between technology being a supporting artist, technology being the main artist is blurring at an exponential rate. And so that brings some fundamental challenges. We are not just connected by technology, we operate our lives through technology, right? We live, eat, connect, find our friends, all of this through technology. So it's not just more about a tool that supports, it's about a platform that enables our life. Maybe in some parts of the world, if the Zomato server goes down, people may go hungry. So it's that close to what we do. So that means the technology that we live our lives through needs to be personal, humane, and participant-centric. And so the vision of being a human-centric technology becomes more relevant. And that's the reason why we looked at this. So what does it mean, right? So this change from being a supporting cast to a main cast, what does it mean to the computation itself? So if you look at it, our computational framework, which we started 80 years back by Alan Turing, is centered around a model which supports information management. It's more a tool which allows you to process things more efficiently, more effectively, provides you convenience. Automation was the primary goal. And that's great as long as it's a tool. But once it's a way of life, now it moves from information to value, right? And that's a fundamental shift. And the new computational model is all about values, are all about participants in context. What is valuable to JP may not be valuable to me in some context, or what is valuable to me in one context may not be in the other one. So JP gave the example of, coffee, purchasing a cup of coffee or buying a house in Beverly Hills. And both are two different transactions. They have two different preferences, two different risk profiles. So value is all about participants in context. And when technology drives our lives, it's all about a value exchange. And what we have as a computational framework is about information management, is about data and process, more on convenience and automation. So that's a fundamental shift, which we thought is happening. And kind of the use of technology has changed in the last maybe 7-8 years with the COVID, but the technology itself has not fundamentally changed. So we are trying to run our lives through it, but then the computational model is still stuck around information. So because that today's internet is a crossroad, right? It's managing value like information. And that's a fundamental misfit, not that it's a design, it's just the use of technology at mode. Web3 unlocks ownership, but very little meaning, right? So we don't have the context. Your assets are distributed all over in different chains. You don't know what your total value is. So pretty complicated situation. So for example, if I were an application developer on a blockchain today, and if I want to have GDPR compliance for some of my applications and wanted it to be stored only on a certain nodes, but not on the others, not possible. So my trust modulation cannot be specific to what my needs are. So it does unlock ownership, but it lacks the context and meaning. AI unlocks intelligence, but absolutely very little trust, or at least it's not safe as we are today. So we need a new foundation, and that can think with us and reflect real world interactions. So obviously that fundamental problem is because today's internet manages value like information. So that's the root cause of all our digital challenges, right? Today's computational model just focuses on, I don't want to go into the details of what the computational model is, it's where, what, and how, right? Where you process information, what do you do with information, how you process the information, and who the person who processes the information, the participant, and their context are not a fundamental dimension of computation at all. We don't have a seat at the table of computation. The impact of that is your context and value, or the intelligence, is now fragmented across all the applications. So each and every application you go and work with, whether it's your cab hailing application or food delivery application, a piece of intelligence gets stuck there, right? You're leaving your footprint there. Now, obviously, your intelligence is all over the different applications, and the networks now just act as dumb pipes. So although our lives depend upon the networks are just connectivity tools, and the intelligence are all fragmented across the applications. And that's fundamentally a problem. If I'm an agent and if I work with one application, and then if I go to a different application, my context of what I did with one application is not available to me, because we are fundamentally an application-centric model managing information, not a value-centric model working with participants. So the fundamental problem is the who is missing. So how do we fix this? The answer is what we came up with, is what is called contextual compute, making participants a fundamental dimension of computation. Like where, what, and how, who becomes a fundamental part of computation, which means JP's intelligence, which is really fragmented across all the applications, now moves to the network. And how does it move to the network? Through the participants. You have an existence in the network. So the way I look at it is, today you're an attribute of computation. So JP is a name, but you are not your name, are you? So if somebody told you, if JP walks into a room, somebody says this is JP, nobody would understand. Or if somebody says this is Rahul, nobody understands. You don't understand you by your name. You're understood by your context, right? People know you, know your interactions. So the intelligence with which you're understood is what defines you. So participant becomes a fundamental dimension of computation, and intelligence moves to the network. Now think of it. If an agent goes to an payment app, so the part of what he builds, what he does there comes along with him. Next, he goes to an food hailing app. That same context goes there. So this kind of intelligence builds over time. So this whole idea of personal intelligence, and more importantly, intelligence as an emergent phenomena as opposed to a recursive phenomena. Today, AI looks at data after the fact and crunches numbers and hope intelligence comes out of it. But our belief is it's all in the interaction, in the context, and it's an emergent phenomenon. So every interaction, every context builds intelligence, and that intelligence sits with the participant who is fundamentally understood by the network, and that kind of allows you to have this native interoperability and real-world applications. So kind of in this model, the apps log into you, right? You exist first, and the apps come and log into you, not the other way around. So this we believe is the true Internet of Value, or the Web 4, the first thinking network, the base infrastructure for AI and Web 3. At a very high level, Web 1 was system-centric. Web 2 was app-centric. Web 3 is platform-centric, and Web 4 will become participant-centric, right? And the clear drivers of those eras were data, information, token, and today it's context, right? So it's all about context, not the context in a general purpose way, as in model context protocol. It's the context of the participant. It is personal context. So if you look at it, Web 1 gave you read, Web 2 give you read, write, Web 3 give you read, write, and own, and Web 4 gives you read, write, own, and think. So this whole idea of think using context and participants, we believe, is the fundamental dimension which will move us towards a platform which is flexible, simple, personal, and like real world. So we just didn't leave at contextual compute. Obviously, contextual compute is the foundational innovation which drives everything that we do through this idea of participant-centric design. We built, and Rahul will talk about it a little bit more, we built 4 fundamental components which drives this innovation, bottom up. One is a context protocol. Think of it like the HTTP of value, right? So this is the new HTTP of the value web. So if you think, HTTP kind of made the information web because it gave you composability in information, which means which gives you scalability, flexibility. So context protocol gives you composability of state and intelligence, and kind of this idea of network objects. The network itself is a resource. Today, network is not a resource. So context protocol kind of allows you to do that. Then we have something called IFP, which is a second protocol that we have built, which allows human-centric finality. It's ordering. One of the largest problems in finality in distributed systems is how do you order the transactions. And today, in all of distributed systems, they do something called global ordering, which is what the point that JP was making. So if you have to book a cab in San Francisco, and if there is another cab which is booked in New York, today, because the global ordering way by which we achieve finality, both of them need to be getting into the same order, same queue, which kind of is nonsensical because it puts an artificial ordering on a naturally independent event. So interaction finality protocol orders events in a natural causal order. So we don't need global ordering, so we get massive parallel consensus. So things which are naturally independent don't have to wait. And that's a huge breakthrough which allows us to give you massive parallelism, not artificial parallelism, right? So we allow naturally independent events to say naturally independent. Then we call an interaction state machine, which kind of is a message-oriented state machine, which allows you to be very safe and flexible. And finally, we have also built a new Sybil resistance mechanism. So if you look at it, one of the largest complaints or inefficiencies is most of the blockchain protocols. The initial promise was a very large network, but they tend to smaller and smaller network over time because your Sybil resistance mechanism centralized over time. We eliminate that by using a new Sybil resistance mechanism, which is human-centric. So these are the core innovations, and Rahul will talk about a little bit more. So what are the immediate use cases, right? So all of this is great. So what can the community look for? What can MOI do, which is kind of different than what others can do? One is safe DeFi and unified liquidity. So if you look with the advent of stable coins, I think the new Genius Act kind of made stable coins real, there's going to be about $17 trillion of new liquidity which comes into the DeFi space. And I don't know how many of you know about it, the last 10 years, about $4 billion have been lost because of this idea of hacks into smart contracts. And the fundamental reason for that is assets today, although you think you own them, are really stored at a smart contract level. So it's a smart contract kind of acts like an honeypot, which can be hacked. And so in our case, every asset is a native asset. It's stored at a participant level. So when I manipulate your asset, somebody else's asset is not available for manipulation. And so that provides you a very safe DeFi environment and also unified liquidity model, which kind of we believe is a game changer. The second one is safe AI, right? A lot of agentic interactions, autonomous agents are going to work together. So there is a lot of orchestration going on. But then the key aspect is we need to know what the agents do. And so it's not about just providing agents memory, it's about providing agents memory associated with the participant. So putting agents memory will create a very large agent database, and that's not going to solve the problem. So trusted and safe AI is a fundamental use case that we can go after, which kind of allows us to build safe agentic interactions. The last use case that we believe we can go after is this idea of on-demand state management for Web2 applications. So many of the Web2 applications, the compute already happens on Web2. They want to integrate with Web3. But then today, if you look at blockchains, everything needs to originate from the blockchain. You need to get into the blockchain to orchestrate anything. So that's a very change management intensive design. In our model, it's on demand. So you could still be in Web2. You could be low code, no code. We can just call blockchain on demand and do state management. That kind of allows you to get into enterprise use cases in a more effective fashion. So what have we done? 60,000 lines of new code, all bottom up, new consensus, new network, new data structure, new Sybil resistance. So we have been brave, to say the least. So we have tried it all. 3 testnet launched. So the 4th one is coming now. And we have approximately about 2,000 nodes globally running around, about 100 plus app tested and developing. Obviously, not everything can be developed, but then there are many use cases we have tested to make this model work. And pretty committed team. We have mostly bootstrapped. We have spent about $6.5 million of our own money with some friends and family support to make this happen, primarily because we wanted the vision not to be compromised. We wanted to have the flexibility to build the vision ground up.
Okay.
Now, we have been from stealth, we want to launch with you, right? Community is the catalyst, and we want to work with you, join the moment. This is we want builders and believers. We are building this for the long haul, and that's clear. And so please join, work with us. The digitally interacting world needs to be people-centric, human-centric, and we have made the first move, but obviously we can't do it all alone, right? So if you think that the digitally interacting world needs to center on participants, join us.
Yeah, as AK said, thank you, AK. This literally wouldn't be possible without you guys, and you guys being here today is step 1 of many as a community. From what I could take away, it is very important to MOI to make sure that we're building something that can actually be used by the community, and we can only get feedback through your participation. So thank you for that, AK. Now I would like to hand it over to Rahul to talk a little bit more about the technology and the foundations of the network.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks, Ruta. Thanks, Ananta, for a great introduction. Hi, everyone. I'm Rahul from the core engineering team at MOI. Today, I'll walk you through the core engineering components that we've built. I guess Anand already very clearly explained why we have built them. So I'll explain how we have built them and what we have done here. And the only request from me, the key takeaways from my session would be why our core protocols unlock safety, scalability, and new use cases. Right? I promise to keep it technical enough to make the engineers nod, but clear enough to everyone see why it matters. Okay, cool. At the heart of the protocol is the heart of the MOI protocol is context protocol, right? So as we said, intelligence should be living at participant, right? So what context protocol defines a new state model that captures and evolves the participant-centric intelligence through context objects, right? So to keep it very simple, think like context object as your personal wallet, a brain, and a toolkit on chain, right? It holds your files. It holds your assets, it holds your files, it holds the logic that you have written, and all your trust preferences as well. Natively, you don't need to push them into any contract. You don't need to hold them into any contract. You don't need to write any contract for that, right? So that sounds interesting, right? So this means that what exactly it means is your data, your assets are with you, but not in locked up, or they're not being held at the contract level or someone else's code. So you're not at the mercy of other code. Right, so you really own your assets. You really own your logics and files. Right? Can you move to the next slide?
Yes.
So that's a context object. We have four fundamental things: one, the assets, files, and third one is logic and your trust preferences. And this is a representation of the participant in the network, right? And this is the vehicle through which we make networks intelligent, right? We're moving the intelligence from apps to participants, and context object represents that particular intelligence of a particular participant. Right. And we've also come up with a new data structure called multi-link composite DAG. So what it does is, okay, now you have context objects, you modify these context objects, and now you need to track how the context has evolved over a period of time, right? And that's what the multi-link composite DAG does. It's a cryptographic data structure which basically tracks how the context has evolved, right? And the biggest value point here with multi-link composite DAG is there's nothing like a world state, right? So if you see the picture out there, every participant technically has their own chain, right? So if Alice and Bob are interacting, it's just Alice and Bob chain getting updated, but not Carl and Dala, right? That gives you enormous amount of flexibility and benefit. It literally there's no block limits, right? You have infinite block space. You can keep on scaling. And what does it really unlock? Okay, now you've built a great data structure, but what does it really add? What value does it add to, right? It opens up true participant ownership, right? As I told you earlier, context object is a vehicle. It represents you. So it holds all your assets, right? It gives you complete ownership. You don't need to hold your assets in some other contract. In traditional blockchains today, what happens is your DAI balance is just a program variable sitting in DAI contract. It is not actually a token sitting in your wallet, right? Now, if the DAI contract has some attack, you lose your tokens. And that's exactly the problem, because assets are not fundamentally recognized, right? So that's what we do. We give you true participant ownership. And the next important thing is composable intelligence, right? Now, since this is like a container which holds all the information associated with you, your assets, your preferences, your trust, and what you interacted with, it creates a very clear picture of what this participant is about. And that creates a very great layer to build intelligent agents, right? You give a lot of context to the agents, right? So which help the agents to reason about, trace, and collaborate better. So these are the two primary things this protocol enables. There are many other things that it enables, but the two important use cases, as Ananta already brought up, it really enables safe DeFi because your assets are with you, you really own them, and it enables safe AI because the intelligence is persistent at the participant level, it is composable, it is available. So you don't lose your context immediately when you switch apps because the intelligence is with you, right? So that is what it unlocks. And the second important piece that we have built, okay, now great, you have identified or you build a mechanism to capture intelligence. Now you need to have a mechanism to agree on the intelligence, right? Because it is a distributed system for that. The network is full of bunch of nodes, right? And all these nodes may share this data, right? It's a big network, right? So you need to have a new mechanism. We have built a new state machine replication model that achieves consensus on the context objects, right? And how is it different? As Ananta brought up already, most of the human interactions are casually ordered, right? JP also gave an example, and Anant also gave an example. Now, when you're building a network which support human-like digital interactions, you need to build a protocol, or you need to have a consensus algorithm which can support consensus at the participant level, and that's exactly what IFP does. So it allows you to achieve consensus. It allows you to get local finality, but at the same point being safe at global level, right? So that's the benefit of IFP, right? And how did we do this? Basically, we have built a new BFT engine. Basically, we call it as Scrum BFT. It's a linear communication, quasi-permission BFT protocol. And the biggest value point here is when Ananta and Rahul are talking, the way the consensus work, it creates a dynamic cluster for Ananta and Rahul, which involves Ananta's context, Ananta's trust preferences, and Rahul's trust preferences and Rahul's context, without bringing every other node in the network, right? But at the same point of time, it gives you the safety of the entire network because it involves some stochastic nodes in the, so it brings some stochastic randomness into the cluster, right? So you get the benefit of a million node network without any cost of it, right? That's what our IFP enables. So this is which really makes our protocol scale, safe, massively faster. Like that's the core value of IFP, right? If you see the picture out there, I don't know whether it's clearly visible, but when Alice and Bob are interacting, you see a dynamic cluster which is getting created, which involves both Alice context and Bob's context and some stochastic set. So this gives you immediate finality, local finality with global verifiability, right? And okay, what does it unlocks? So first thing, as I said, local instant finality. What does local instant finality result in? It gives you high throughput, right? You will be able to process a lot of transactions parallelly. You will be able to process transactions at blazing fastness, right? And ensuring the safety and security being not compromised at the network level, right? So that's the benefit of local finality. And the second important thing, which only we can do, is modulated trust, right? Since we create dynamic clusters for every interaction or a bunch of interactions, we can tune this consensus according to the interaction requirements. And that is which makes our consensus also context aware, right? So again, I'll not go detail into the examples, but every transaction or an interaction has its own context requirements, right? It may be low value transaction. It may be high value transaction. The trust requirements for the transactions needs to be modulated, right? Then that's exactly what Web2 gives you. Web2 gives you enormous amount of flexibility because you can tune the way you process these transactions in a Web2 environment, right? Whereas Web3 lacks this, right? Every transaction is treated in a similar fashion. And that is what IFP solves, right? It gives you modulated trust. You can tune the trust requirements. You can choose where to store. You can choose what computation environment to choose, right? You can choose what nodes to be part of the consensus, right? So that's the benefit of modulated trust. So it gives you Web2 like a user experience. So now people cannot come and complain, oh, you Web3 is very dumb, or Web3 is very fat, rigid protocol, right? So it gives you Web2 like flexibility. And the third important piece in the entire board is basically the interaction state machine. Great that we have built a data structure, a consensus mechanism, but now you should allow people to utilize the power of consensus and data structure. And to do that, you need a new computation model. Your regular way of writing smart contracts is not good enough because it's very app-centric, right? It doesn't understand participants at all. You just deal with functions and classes. There's no ideology of participant in your program at all, right? So for example, in DIE contract, right, your balance is just an entry in the map of balance. So there's no ideology of participant at all. And that's what ISM solves. ISM is basically a new computation model which will allow to modify the context objects. And it introduces the ideology of participant and through context objects into computation. And how did we do this? We have built two fundamental engineering components. One, a new language, and the second thing is a runtime and a VM. So I'll talk about the language first. So we have built something called COCO, Context-Oriented Programming Language. What it allows you to do, it recognizes participant through context object as a fundamental construct. So it gives you all the benefit of participant-centric programming. And for the developers out there, it is a Pythonish-like language. It has Pythonish-like syntax, but it gives you the safety of Rust-like language, right? I'll go very detailed into these things later on in the next dev talk. But I'm sure a lot of you will love it because it is simple to write and it is very safe, right? And it is designed to be audit friendly. It is designed to be safe by nature, right? So you cannot do the same mistakes that you do in Solidity and lose millions of dollars just because a developer writes a small arithmetic problem, has a small arithmetic bug, loses a lot of money, right? Such a thing doesn't exist, is not possible in Cocoa to great extent, right? And the next important thing is basically PISA, right? So today, the way computation works in blockchain is for everything you need to write a business logic, right? You cannot do anything in most of the blockchains without writing any business logic. I feel like this is like a big friction point, right? So if you really want to, even if you want to do a simple value transfer, if you want to create a token and move a token, you really need to deploy a contract, right? And you see 90% of the contracts deployed in Ethereum, I'm just taking it as an example, are exactly similar, right? So there's not too much change in the business logic, but you have to do it. So this is a big pain point, and this is really a very big friction point. And we solve this by supporting context-scoped micro interactions. So what PISA does is basically it allows you, it supports multiple interaction types, domain-specific interaction types. For example, we have asset-based interactions, we have file-based interactions, we have AI-based, agent-based interactions, we have commerce-based interactions, and we will keep on extending this SDK, right? The entire value point here is developers doesn't need to write any code. So it's low code, no code. It's like your Lego blocks. You need to plug and pull appropriate interaction type to meet your business requirements, and tada, done. You can easily integrate your Web2 application, an ERP application, and an e-commerce website to Web3 without writing any line of it, not even a single line of code, right? And that's the benefit of PISA, right? And it is ZK enabled, right? Because now you have very deterministic computation, you have very context-scoped micro transactions, so you can easily do computation off chain and verify it on chain as well, right? You don't need a complete ZK, how would I say, right? A very complex ZK circuit. Everything comes inbuilt, right? So that's in PISA. Now, what does it really, actually, I've already communicated the benefit, but what does it really, let me dumb it down. What does it really help for developers out there, right? One, it allows you to write true participant-centric business logics. So they're safe, right? You don't get to commit the same mistakes that you do in Solidity and lose millions of dollars. Second, it gives you a composable plug-and-play interaction model. So you don't need to write code at all, right? So that's our goal, right? In coming 2 to 3 years, MOI will support like 100 to 200 interaction types, so which will meet all of your business requirements, right? In worst case, if you need to write the code, right, we have a programming language which is really powerful, and it will allow you to write very complex business logics. And the biggest advantage of this interaction-centric computing is basically it is message-driven, right? So what I mean by that, as I explained earlier, your context object also holds your state, right? So not every logic needs to be stateful, because in Ethereum or any other blockchain for that matter, the state of the participant is completely held at the contract level. There's no other way where you can hold my state. Whereas in MOI, since context object allows you to hold the state, right? So the logics now can become stateless, fully stateless, right? So you can talk to a logic which will write the state back to you, but not hold anything. So what it gives you enormous amount of scalability, right? And it is very secure as well, because now even if the contract gets hacked, nothing is going to affect you until you interact with the contract, right? So this is a message-driven architecture in Web2 systems. It is like your message-driven models where you have very micro transactions that you perform, which are like your messages that you send onto a network, and they get processed independently, asynchronously, concurrently, and that is it about message-driven architecture. Okay, and the final thing, great. Now we have built a protocol, or we have built a bunch of protocols which will allow you to capture intelligence, modify intelligence, agree on the intelligence. Great. Now you need a mechanism to make it viable, sustainable, right, in an open network setting. And that's where a proof of context comes into picture. It's a human-centric trust and Sybil resistance mechanism that uses participants' reputation through an attribute that we have developed called context power as a Sybil resistance measure, right? Most of the blockchains out there, right, are very, how would I say this, capital-centric, or they provide a great privilege for capital and hardware, right? but the reputation of the participant really doesn't add any value in the network, right? And we feel like that's a big thing, right? So what we have done is we have built a new civil resistance measure called context power, which is just doesn't only take your economical value into it, but it also takes your social value and the behavior that you have exhibited in the protocol, right? So it's a new measure that we have built, which will allow validators. The voting power of the validators will be decided based on not only just based on the stake, but how they have behaved, how well they have behaved, and how they have contributed to the network over a period of time, right? And there are other engineering components that we have built. For example, we have built a gas price survey mechanism. So you have non-volatile gas fees. You don't need to deal with volatile gas fees like any other blockchain because we have a very balanced gas model. And we have a fair and equitable reward and reward distribution mechanism. Basically, we have built something on the lines of tallying rule. So basically, it's a cohesive mechanism where all the validators get to gauge other validators' performance and provide them rewards. So what it really enables is it creates a very good friendly environment around validators, though all of them will promote good behavior in the protocol. So making the protocol more reliable, more secure over a period of time, right? So that is what we have been on Context Power. That really makes your networks fair and inclusive because you don't really need to stake too much amount of money to be part of MOI network. Even if you have a very decent normal, like for example, if you have a home computer, you can really be part of the network and you will be able to make good amount of tokens by participating in the network. You don't really need a very big mining machine or a very too much amount of money to be staked, right? That's how we make it fair and inclusive. That's what we mean. We believe in participants, people-centric network where everyone should be able to be part of the network. And second thing, as I told you, it is reliable and affordable because we don't have too much capital costs for validators. They don't need to stake too much, right? Their running costs are okay and they're minimal capital costs. So it makes the network very reliable because the gas prices can be adjusted according to the network for paying the validators. And second important thing, as I told you, this POXT or context power is based on reputation, right? So it basically promotes good behavior in the protocol, which makes it reliable over a period of time, right? So it is a multi-factored mechanism that we have designed. Yes, it sounds very complicated, but it is very valuable over a period of time because we want to operate a real participant-centric human network, not just 100 node or 200 node bank-like network. I don't know, that may be a wrong word, but yeah. So, okay, fine. Great technology, but why does it matter? Like, what are we trying to enable, right? There can be many powerful use cases which can be enabled because of our core protocols and the technology that we have built. But primarily, we are very focused or we are very bullish on two classes of use cases. One is safe DeFi, other one is safe AI. And I hope I made some sense all these along. And you have understood the fact that these protocols basically make give you complete ownership of your assets, right? And make AI agents intelligent enough and trustworthy. So these are the two primary use cases that we are bullish on. And I would call upon all the developers out there who are exploring building something in DeFi or something in AI to really check out our MOI. I will be available most of my time in Telegram and Discord. If you guys want to hit on me and just say, oh, I'm trying to build this, can you guys help us out? Our MOI team is always available for you guys, right? So yeah, and the final point, I request everyone to join us and help us to build true participant-centric human network, intelligent network. And now, okay, great. Now you may ask me, what are you smoking for all this long, right? So I'm here. Yes, we have been on this for quite some time, right? And I have a very great founder who supports the team as well. So it all started in 2018 and 2022. The slide is too short for me. Some reason, let me just up. Okay. So yeah, it all started in 2018 and 2022. That's when the actual research started. That's when we started specking out the core protocols, what you see, CP, IFP, POXT, and ISM. We did a lot of research during that time to figure out what is in the market, what is lacking, and how do we take these protocols to support Internet of Value our intelligent networks. And we built early prototypes. We tested our core hypothesis, right, and conducted internal validations across the team and friends and relatives, tech people, right, across other protocols as well. And from 2022 to 2023 and 2024, we are heads down building. We've launched the first incentivized testnet, which was basically Babylon. And during this phase, we have actually built the engineering components that you have seen, like MDAG, Context Object, KBFT, COCO, PISA, all this way. And I'm proud to say we have scaled the network just in incentivized testnet to 2,000 nodes. We have distributed across 70 million MOI tokens and rewards. And we have also launched a successful enterprise network, which is a permission network to build enterprise use cases on top of it. And we have also took it to market to some extent. We have very closed groups. We have conducted some hackathons in FIL Bangalore and ETH Brussels as well. And then we came, meanwhile, we started working on the mainnet related work. So we started building the core remaining pieces, basically the POXT, the Signal Resistance Mechanism. Currently, the team is working on the final papers. The papers are getting peer reviewed. They're being formally verified by industry experts. Hopefully, you guys will see the research papers published in a couple of weeks. And we're also working, as I told you, we're also working on domain-specific SDKs. So you don't get to write a lot of code. So you can just go find the appropriate SDK, find the appropriate method, and start integrating into your Web2 application. So you don't need to learn a new language, not even Coco. Most of the time. And we're also in the process of getting the final testnet launched, as Ananta mentioned, which would be Giza. We're almost there. Hopefully it will be out in a month. And our target for mainnet is around 2,500 nodes supporting 10K transactions per second. That is very close. We are almost there. We'll be supporting it by end of this month. Hopefully we'll be doing the testnet by end of this month and the mainnet by end of this year. And we have a very big vision. In the coming years, we want the protocol to be quantum safe. We want to focus more on adoption. There's a lot of noise around quantum privacy and stuff. So MOI by design is quantum proof. So we have cleverly designed it in such a fashion that you can easily integrate any quantum proof cryptography into it. So the next year, 2026, we'll be focused on making it quantum proof. And we'll also be supporting multiple other interaction types. We'll be extending interaction types, especially for commerce, identity, DeFi, and AI as well. And we will be integrating zero knowledge groups into PISA. And we are planning to scale the network to 10K nodes supporting 40K real transactions per second. Right? These are not any system interactions, they're real user transactions. And 2027, we want to, as I told, our entire vision is to build a human-centric network. So we want to really get human trust into the network. The agents are being everywhere, right? So I'm sure all of us will be supported by agent in coming months, right? And for that, to realize the missing piece is human trust. So we're going to build human trust-based interactions. We'll be integrating proof of humanity into POXT. So you can really build very scalable and very efficient, trustworthy smart agents on top of MOI, utilizing the MOI stack. And a big ask from the community always is to support multi-token for gas payments. So that we'll be also working in 2027. And by end of 2027, we will be scaling to 25,000 nodes and 100K transactions per second. Finger crossed. I'm sure we are very bullish on that. And the journey continues. There's a lot of the stuff, but I'll end my stuff here. I'm always available in all the social media channels of MOI. So if you guys are interested in exploring and building something in safe AI and safe DeFi, please hit us on. Right? Thank you.
I think that we definitely learned a lot, and I'm definitely looking forward to the next DevX call to learn a little bit more. So recently on our socials, we have been receiving some questions, and here are a few frequently asked ones that we chose to answer today. So AK, I remember you talked a little bit about safe DeFi. Can you explain how MOI protects assets and puts users in control? AK.
And now this time it was me. We can build a protocol, but we do not know when to unmute. In today's protocols, primarily your assets are not are held at a smart contract level. Think of it like a piggy bank, right? Imagine if we all have a piggy bank and all our tokens are in the same piggy bank, and if one person goes and breaks the piggy bank, all the tokens fall out. Everybody's tokens fall out, right? So that's today's situation. Smart contracts hold everybody's tokens at a native level, and so any problem in the smart contract would kind of affect everyone. So what we have done is we have built multiple piggy banks. Assume that every individual had their own piggy banks, and all their tokens are sitting in the piggy bank. So if one person goes and tries to take money from their piggy bank, obviously it doesn't affect somebody else. So at a very high level, it's a participant-centric state management, asset management idea. So thinking of it differently, a little technically, I don't think any of the protocols today have been hacked on their native tokens. What I mean by that is nobody hacks Ethereum, for example, on ETH tokens. What always get hacked are the application tokens. So in all the protocols today, there is only one native asset, which is the native token, which is all application tokens are owned by the smart contract. In MOI, every token is a native token owned by the participant. So you get, for example, if somebody is building an application on MOI, a DeFi protocol on MOI, the tokens get the same security like the protocol token. So the MOI token and the application token get the same security, same native token flexibility owned by the participant. So that makes it completely safe. And Rahul briefly made this point. You can write logic completely without holding any assets. What I mean by that is it doesn't hold any state. So the logic just executes the business rules, and your tokens will get into the logic only if you interact with it. So it can be completely safe then.
Okay, that is definitely good to know. So Rahul, previously you had mentioned that MOI claims to work on low code or even no code infrastructure. What does that mean for developers and enterprises trying to build on the network? Could you touch on that just one more time for us?
Sure. Basically, we are making their life simple. They don't need to write any code. So the core ideology is this microtransaction model where we support different type of interaction types. So we have SDKs built for specific domains. So they just need to integrate those SDKs into their existing systems, right? And they get to interact with the blockchain, and they get to use the power, safe and trust of the blockchain, right? So it's more about using simple SDKs, like how Web2 developers do their programming in day-to-day job, right? So it's the same thing. You don't need to write any logic, most of the scenarios.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, and most blockchains do talk about scalability, but what exactly is on-demand horizontal scalability? How does MOI handle scaling?
Okay, as I explained, so basically IFP is capable of handling transactions in a very context-aware manner, right? For example, the conversation that we are having today, it's between Ruta and Rahul. So IFP creates a dynamic cluster for Ruta and Rahul, right? And it achieves consensus without affecting any other transaction in the protocol, right? So that gives us enormous amount of scalability. You can horizontally scale. As more and more nodes join the network, you can create more dynamic clusters, ephemeral clusters, which will process more transactions. So you don't have any limitations like what other traditional blockchain protocols have as the number of nodes increases, right? In fact, we get a lot better when the more nodes join the network, because you get to process more transactions parallelly, right?
Yep.
So that's about on-demand horizontal scalability.
Got it. Great. Thank you. And then this is a question for AK. I see that you use the word participant everywhere, but what exactly does it mean for a network to be participant-centric when it comes to AI and agent interactions?
how much time do we have?
We'll keep it short and simple for today.
So the participant centricity is the fundamental basis of what we are doing here, right? So today, participant is an attribute of competition. You're just a name. Participant is not understood, right? So participant is not a first order dimension in computation today. What I mean by that is, it's like your identity. Today, a participant is recognized by an identity, but in our case, through context, participant has a first order existence. The protocol first starts with the participants and then understands what the network needs to do, what the consensus needs to do, what the computation needs to do, what the trust preferences are, how the interaction needs to operate. The starting point is the participant. And the way we do that is through this idea of context and context object that we recognize. Now, with that said, how does it help in agentic interaction? So today, talk about agents having context. It's not about adding memory to agents, right? So obviously, agents need to have an identity, but then one agent can operate on 100 participants. Now, all of their memory, if it gets stored at the agentic level, you will have the same problem that we have today. In our model, each agent is able to store and manipulate the context object, which represents the participants. So their context stays and their information and their intelligence stays with the participants. This way, the intelligence moves from the application or the agents to the network. And so when the participant Ruta goes and works with the second agent, whatever she did with the first agent automatically goes with her. Right? So this allows interoperability, safety, scalability, flexibility. So when we say participant-centric, there are first-order dimensions. So the network has the ability to attach all the resources and capabilities around a participant. So just on the scalability point, for example, everybody has a ledger. So Ruta has a ledger today. Now Ruta has an entry in a ledger in today's blockchain. But in MOI, Ruta herself has a ledger. So that allows you to be kind of participant-centric and manage the network the way you want.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And here is a bonus question for JP. What are the plans for community and TGE? How are we planning to expand, and what are things that the community can look out for?
Oh, thank you, Ruta. We've got a lot of things in the pipeline. We've got some competitions coming up with prizes and chances to win tokens. We've got our games as going to be part of our ZD campaigns. We've got some fantastic bits and pieces coming up shortly, and to prep for TGE across the wider team, which is going to make life very, very interesting for those that are part of our communities. Please keep an eye on our Telegram channel, because that's where we're going to do all TGE announcements. And we're still targeting a Q4 TGE, so keep glued to Telegram.
Okay, sounds like a plan. This has been such a great first call, not just because we got to share updates, but because we got to start a conversation with all of you. MOI clearly isn't just building something for the community, we want to build something with the community. Every validator, every developer, even just people who spread the word, you're really shaping what MOI becomes. Before we wrap up, here's a couple of things that you guys can do to keep the momentum going. First of all, you could definitely join our testnet. The next phase is rolling out really soon, and your participation will help validate and strengthen our network. You could explore our GitHub by contributing code, building tools, or even just running nodes. You could become a community champion, whether writing, educating, developing, or just being an evangelist. There's a place for you to lead and make an impact. Of course, as always, stay connected through our socials found on the QR code below. We'd love to hear your thoughts on what you'd like for us to cover in the next community call. Your feedback is what helps us make these sessions more interactive, more useful, and inspiring for everybody. Thank you so much for showing up for our very first community call. This is just the beginning, and the more voices we have in the room, the more fair, the more open, and the more human our internet becomes with what we build together. Thank you, everybody, for your time today.